a human movement, and physical therapists are human movement experts who should be at the forefront of educating people about COVID differently in this era. We have to be educated, empowered healthcare leaders, healthcare educators during this time of COVID-19. Okay, very quickly, I'm going to empower you on the cell biology of this virus that causes COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2. In order for us to understand the cell biology of SARS-CoV-2, we have to know that protein production, protein biochemistry is at the very core of human existence. So on this slide, there is an interesting point, and there is a palm leaf, and then there is our own palm, the human palm. A palm leaf's structure is mostly carbohydrate based. The human palm structure is mostly protein based. This tells us a deeper fact, and that is human biology to a large extent is driven by protein biology, protein biochemistry. Protein biochemistry makes us who we are. And what this virus is doing is that it is using our own protein biochemistry to make copies of itself, spread, and also make us sick. So how does it do it? How does this virus do it? Well, to be very brief, what you have to understand is that, the code for life is present in genomic DNA. We know that. The genomic DNA is located within the nucleus. Some of it, there is also mitochondrial genomic DNA, but let's focus on the nucleus. So you have genomic DNA in the nucleus. In order to make a protein, such as collagen, which is in your skin, or keratin, which is in your hair, the genomic DNA information has to be changed. So what the genomic DNA does is it encodes for something known as messenger RNA. That messenger RNA binds to structures known as ribosomes in the cell, in a structure known as the endoplasmic reticulum. Those ribosomes have the machinery to take genetic information and convert that, translate that into amino acid information. When you move from genetic information to amino acid information and you start arranging amino acids in sequence, those are essentially the initial structures for proteins. So amino acids in sequence, they eventually become proteins like collagen in our skin, keratin in our hair, collagen also in our bones, actin, myosin in our muscles. So what this virus that causes COVID-19 does is that it behaves just like our cell's own messenger RNA. Those structures I mentioned, ribosomes, which arrange amino acids, those ribosomes too, and they say, hey, messenger RNA, SARS-CoV-2 virus, which has an RNA genome to bind to it, and these ribosomes start acting as slaves to the SARS-CoV-2 virus and start helping make copies. And guess what? What happens when copies are made? The copies are put out into the extracellular environment within a host, and then the person coughs it out, sneezes it out, talks it out, spits it, spreads from person to person. And then people move, human movement is then used by this virus to spread itself, make copies. And if we don't move differently, if we don't rethink human movement, this is going to go on for quite a while. We are going to have to deal with this for a very long time if human beings do not change the way we move. We have to move differently in the era of COVID-19 because the virus thrives on host bodies. The moment you start depriving the virus of host bodies, the virus starts weakening. That's just the nature of viruses. We know that this happens because the original SARS outbreak of 2003 was controlled by effectively stopping the virus from getting host bodies to make copies of itself and spread. So, how do I know this stuff? I'm a physical therapist. How do I know this stuff? Well, I do have training as a molecular physiologist as well. But when COVID-19 started, putting its claw, she's an occupational therapist and also has training, PhD training in biomedical science. My wife and I worked on trying to dig through the literature, just maniacally trying to dig through the literature and trying to get information to see if we can put together a story and identify drugs that might exist already that can be repurposed for COVID-19. And what we found was that the literature suggests that a particular signaling pathway known as the kinin signaling pathway or the bradykinin signaling pathway might be disrupted in COVID-19, and that a particular drug which is already approved by the FDA in the US, reduce the severity of COVID-19 respiratory symptoms. Recently, a paper has been published as a follow-up to the idea that we proposed, and this paper provides data which suggests that in a small group of subjects, it was found that the drug that we talked about, icatibant, was able to improve oxygenation, which is very encouraging. And we hope that this idea can move quickly and help reduce disease severity, reduce deaths due to COVID-19. Okay, so quiz question number 2.